Maya Lin was an architecture student at Yale in 1980 when the competition for a design for the new Vietnam War memorial was announced. And this memorial was going to be placed somewhere in the mall in Washington, D.C. And her professor said that the assignment for the class was to make a design for the Vietnam War memorial and turn it into him, and also to submit it for the national competition. So Maya Lin visited the site on the mall in Washington, D.C., where the memorial was going to be established. And what she envisioned when she stood there was a cut in the earth, which would lead visitors down into the earth and then come back out of the ground. And when she got back to college, she made a model out of mashed potatoes in the cafeteria so her friends could see it. And at the last minute, she entered it into the national competition. It was number 1,026 out of 1,421 entries. And the entries were judged by their number and not by the name. So it was a blind judging. And when the winner was announced, it was Maya Lin, college student. Well, her design called for a sidewalk going slanting down into the ground, into an opening in the ground with a long wall of black granite alongside it. And the names of every soldier who had died in Vietnam were going to be etched into that black granite wall, beginning with the first soldiers who died, and then listed by date until the last soldier who died. And a controversy erupted when the decision was announced. No statues, no heroes, no marble columns, nothing going up, only things going down. Some people called it a travesty, a mockery of the war, and her ethnicity was questioned. Maya Lin herself was born in the United States, but her parents had immigrated from China. Well, as you probably know, the Vietnam War Memorial has become one of the most visited and most loved memorials in Washington, D.C., in the country. I've been there, and I remember walking down, and seeing all those names etched in that black granite wall, and watching people as they were searching for the name of a loved one, and then finding it, and then tracing the name with their fingers, or sometimes doing a tracing on a piece of paper. And those names that are etched in there, it says, this person, this individual, this human being mattered. Very powerful. Then as you come up out of the memorial, you feel the sky opening up, and you feel like you're coming back into the light. So the whole experience is very powerful. Maya Lin submitted her assignment to the professor before the award was announced. She got a B. Well, I think that what Maya Lin's memorial shows us is that healing comes from deep inside. When we reach down to the darkness inside us, that's where we find our pain. And that's when we can put ourselves back together and become whole. Our reading from the letter to the Romans today says, "Cast away the works of darkness and put on the armor of light." Paul was talking about the second coming of Christ, because the church believed that Christ was going to return any day. And he said, the night is far gone, the day is near. In other words, we're living in a time of darkness now, but when Christ comes, the dawn will break, and we'll see the light. So get ready, he says. Get ready for the coming of the light. And the early church believed that when Christ would come again, it'd be a wonderful and joyful day. They didn't fear the day of Christ coming, but they were ready for it. Come, Lord Jesus, was their motto. But right now, Paul says, we're waiting. And Jesus says the same thing in the gospel lesson. The Son of Man will come at an unexpected hour. So Christ is coming, but he hasn't come yet. 2,000 years have gone by. We're still waiting. But we're waiting expectantly in the darkness. You know, darkness is like pregnancy. When the baby is inside the mother's womb and it's dark, and then when the baby is born, it comes out into the light. So Advent, the season of Advent, is like the time of pregnancy. We're waiting, we're hoping for what's to come, for what's in the future. When I went to seminary in Tennessee, I and my whole family had a big culture shock. We sold everything, our house and cars and everything in Alaska. We moved everything across country to Tennessee. We moved into the seminary housing, and everything was different. The people were different. The way people talk is different. The church was different. And so it was a big shock for us. I felt completely out of place and over my head. All of us had to make big adjustments, and I was stressed about my classes. It seemed like all the other students were so much smarter than I and so much more sophisticated than I. So it was a tough beginning. And after a few weeks of classes, the dean announced that we were going to cancel class and have a silent retreat on one day. And I thought, oh, no, I don't need a silent retreat. You know, I need time to work on my classes and to be with my family. What is this about a silent retreat? It's just a waste of time. But it turned out to be much different than I thought it would be. The retreat leader was this kindly old priest who had led many silent retreats before. And when he prayed, he had this beautiful southern accent that just made it seem so warm and sincere. And he let us wander around the monastery where the silent retreat was being held. And then he would call us together every so often, and he would read to us from a book. It was about a young man who was trying to discern his call to ministry. And then we would wander around again. At lunch, we all sat together in silence as he read from the book. I've never done that before. And when late afternoon came, I realized how much more calm I felt, how the stress and the anxiety seemed to have melted away, and I was able to really slow down. Well, I think we need times like that. We need times to slow down, to retreat within ourselves, to just kind of sit in the darkness sometimes. Listen to ourselves and listen to God. I think that's what the season of Advent is about. You know, we don't, when Christ was crucified, remember, they put his body in the tomb, and it sat there in the darkness for 3 days before he rose again. So that cycle of darkness and light is part of the rhythm of the Christian life. You know, we don't just live in the glare of bright lights all the time, where everyone can see us. We don't just pretend that everything is perfect and peachy keen all the time. We allow ourselves to sit in the shadows at times. You know, the season of Advent comes at the darkest time of the year, when the days are shortest and the nights are the longest. And then the solstice comes on December 21st, and after that, the light starts to return. Very symbolic for the season of Advent. The night is far gone, the day is near. Paul says, cast away the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. My son told me about a computer game that he plays sometimes, and your character in this computer game is completely in the dark and has to search out these treasure chests where you can find powers and weapons. And each character has a little circle of light around them, so you can see just a little bit. And it's something like an aura, I guess. And it seems to me that maybe the armor of light that Paul is talking about is sort of like an aura. Cast away the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. The armor of light is the aura that each one of us has. For some people, it's very dim and you can barely see it. For other people, it's very noticeable. Our aura, I would think, would come from our personal qualities, from our graciousness, our love, our acceptance, our humor, our calmness. And people with a strong aura project goodness, and somehow you can tell it. So cast away the works of darkness. Put on the armor of light. So I hope that in the coming weeks of Advent, as we get closer to Christmas, we'll radiate light and goodness into this world that is sometimes filled with darkness. Let us cast away the works of darkness and put on the armor of light.